This is one of the most fascinating puzzles that you will ever see, and what makes it even better is that Stockfish doesn't get it. Stockfish thinks that this position is a draw and doesn't understand how white can actually win. Eventually it figures it out, but it's much further down the line. And so I wanted to show you this. You can see Stockfish is on over there showing 0-0. Now I am going to turn off Stockfish because I don't want it to spoil the rest of the puzzle. So let's go ahead and do that. As a reminder, black's pawns are moving down the board in this direction. It is white to play and win. If you would like to pause and think through an idea, this is a little bit of a longer puzzle, but you might be able to figure out the idea with some thought. Go ahead and pause, and then we'll take a look. Hey guys, before we get back to the puzzle, I wanted to say thank you to this video's sponsor, Hercules Chess. If you haven't heard of them, it's a completely free site which has chess puzzles, like what you're looking at right here. They have Puzzle Rush, so if you're not familiar with that, it's basically you solve puzzles until the time runs out, or you can do survival mode where you solve as many as you can. They have endgames that you can practice. So if you want to work on, let's just say, the 2 bishops checkmate, you can very easily practice that. They have other ones as well. And they're in the process of adding bots, so just like you have on chess.com where you can play against different bots. And there's going to be, wait for it, a Chess Vibes bot. So if you like to play against the robot version of myself, that's coming very soon. It might not be live when you click on the link, but just know it is in the works and it's coming very soon. I'm excited actually to play against myself, and so probably we'll be doing a video in the future on that. So definitely check out HerculesChess.com. There is a link in the description. If you're going to check it out, please use that link as it helps support me and the channel, but it's totally free and a lot of good resources there. So I definitely recommend you check that out. All right, having said that, let's get back to the puzzle. All right, guys, so when we first look at this position, it actually looks pretty nice for us, right? Like black's king is already stuck, and we have this really nice bishop, which I'm envisioning delivering some kind of checkmate, right? Like maybe I'm going here, maybe I'm taking this and delivering a checkmate. Like it looks pretty good to me. However, as we start to go further into this puzzle, we realize it's not so simple. So for example, if I just kind of casually take this pawn with the idea that I'm going to go here and deliver the checkmate, well, black's going to simply take this. And, you know, if I take here, there's no way I'm winning now, obviously, right? The only thing I could try would be to come back here, but then the king's going to go over. Yes, I can throw in this check, and yes, I can get a pin here, but black's going to play c6. I can take it. Black's going to play bishop e7, and essentially what it comes down to is I have no way to make progress in this position. What am I going to do? Somehow I have to get my king to attack this rook over here, but I can't cross this line because of the rook, and ultimately it's going to be a draw, right? So that's kind of the problem with the just super basic, obvious move of let's just take the pawn. So the way we need to start this puzzle is actually not taking the pawn, but going bishop to c6. And there's a couple of reasons. Number one, and the primary reason, is we're blocking this pawn. Okay, we don't want that pawn to move, and you're going to see why that's important later. But for right now, we go here. We're threatening checkmate. Black has to do something right away. Of course, they can't move the bishop, or this is still checkmate because the knight covers the escape square. They can't move the pawn, also checkmate. They can't move this pawn, also checkmate. They can't move the king, it's trapped. So I think you're seeing where this is going. They have to make a rook move. Now, rook to a8 doesn't cut it. We play bishop there. We play knight takes d8. And then regardless of what black does, knight to c6 is going to be checkmate. Unless, of course, they moved this pawn, in which case knight a6 is checkmate. Okay, so regardless, black is checkmated. So the only move for black is to take this knight with their rook. Now, this is a tricky moment in the puzzle. If you'd like to pause, what should we play here? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the correct move is bishop to d7 check. We do not take the rook. If we take the rook, the king is going to move. And how are we going to win? We could try to bring our king up and then deliver checkmate with the knight, but we don't have time. Black's going to move one of these pawns, create an escape route, and the king's going to run away, right? And ultimately, this is going to be a draw. So that doesn't quite cut it, and therefore we have to go check. And the idea is that after king to b8, we're going to go check again, force the king in the corner, and now we're going to go bishop to c6. Now, this is a really clever idea. What we have done here, if you look carefully, we have completely tied up all 4 of black's pieces, the king, the rook, and these 2 pawns, right? The king can't move. The pawn can't move because it's blockaded. This pawn can't move because it's blockaded. The rook can't move because it's pinned. So all 4 of these pieces are completely stuck, which means black has to move this bishop or move this pawn. Now, If we were able to somehow go over here, capture this pawn, could we win? The answer is yes. Notice this square right here. We would simply, let's say we capture this, we would simply walk our king in and then deliver the checkmate. It's really that simple, right? Because this bishop on the dark squares, it doesn't really matter where it moves. It's not going to prevent us from walking along these white squares if this pawn was gone, right? So that's kind of the first part of the puzzle. Can we take the pawn? And by the way, I will actually turn back Stockfish back on for you. It still thinks that this position is a draw, okay? So I just wanted to show you that, which it's not, but Stockfish is confused. All right, so bishop c6, we have the pin. What is black going to play? Well, probably just something like bishop to e7. And the idea is that if they leave the pawn on h5, it can create like a barrier to prevent our king from coming in like this. And if we try to come like this way, well, then the pawn might come down here and get a queen, right? That's kind of what black is planning on doing. So we go king to f3, bishop to d6, and notice how black is creating this sort of wall, keeping us from getting to the pawn, right? We can't move to any of these squares. So what do we have to do? Well, we just take our time, we come back, and the nice thing about this position is we don't have to rush, right? Because all of these guys are stuck. This is all we have to worry about right now as white. So we go to g2, bishop to e5. Black's kind of just trying to keep the, the bishop there. King to h3. And now black has two options. The most obvious, and this is the main line, is bishop to f6, right? Keeping our king from getting to the pawn. However, they also have another little trick, which we'll just touch on briefly, bishop to g3. If you'd like to pause, what do you think the idea of this crazy looking move is? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the point is that if we take it, black's going to simply keep pushing this pawn until we take it, with the idea being that we get a stalemate, right? If we take this, remember, these pieces can't move, which means black has no moves. And so it's a draw by stalemate, right? That's black's idea. However, we can simply play the move king to h2 here, giving black this extra move. And now we can come over here and make a move, let's say knight c5, giving them another move. And then we simply start taking stuff. So we can take this. We're going to take this. We're going to hunt down these pawns with our pieces. And this is a win. Once we take all the pawns, a king, a bishop, and a knight is a winning endgame against the king. I have a video on the channel teaching the process for that if you'd like to go watch that. It's really not super difficult. There are a couple of things you need to know, though, but it's a win. So that's kind of the idea. Nice try by black, but it doesn't quite work. So therefore, the main line is bishop to f6. And black says, nope, I'm not going to let you in. I'm going to keep the king from getting to my pawn. So what do? We just slide over. We're just going to kind of play the waiting game. What's black going to do now? Well, bishop g5 looks like a pretty good move. Still keeping our king out, right? What are we going to do? King to f3. And around this point in the puzzle is when Stockfish now sees that there is a win for white. So I'm not going to show you because I don't want it to spoil anything, but it does see that there is a win for white now. I just realized I had my cursor on, so I just turned that off. All right, so what is black going to do now? Well, they have to make a decision. Do they push the pawn, or do they just try to keep the bishop there, maybe go like back like bishop h6? So the main line is pushing the pawn. But let's say they don't. Let's say they just try to kind of keep the bishop in an annoying spot to keep us out. What are we going to do? Now we are close enough that we are going to abandon the pawn and go for checkmate. So we're just going to go for it. We're going to go like this and go for the checkmate. Okay, this is our threat. The only thing that the black can do to stop that is try to get a queen as fast as they can, right? This bishop can't do anything because all we have to do is stay on the light squares. So black pushes. We're going to come up. Black pushes. We're going to come up. Black pushes. We're going to come up. Gets the queen. We can't go here now because the queen would just simply take our bishop. So we take the queen. Now there is this check from black, c6 check, which blocks off the diagonal and unleashes the rook. But we have this move king to c8. And the point is that anywhere that this rook moves, like in this direction, let's just say it goes to b6 to try to defend the pawn, we have knight to c7 checkmate. Okay? So there's really nothing that black can do about that. The only thing they can do is be rook to b8 check to force our king out of there, in which case we take the rook. Now, a5, and it looks like, wait a minute, isn't black escaping? Well, no, we play knight takes c6, and black plays a4, and this pawn is going. The question is, what do we do as white? If you'd like to pause, how do we win this game from here as white? All right, if you had a chance to do that, the way that we win is by completely ignoring this pawn. We don't even care. We literally don't even care. Bishop to d5, it pushes. Bishop to c4, it pushes. Bishop to a6. Black gets the queen. We don't care. Checkmate with the bishop. I mean, look at that. And of course, the black bishop couldn't do anything about it because this all happened on light squares, right? Which this bishop can never cover. So that's really nice. That's one of the amazing features about this puzzle, right? Is this mating net where the bishop or the king can just travel along the white squares and ultimately deliver the checkmate, okay? So let's go back and recap how we got here. That was what happened if black just said, you know what? I'm going to bring my bishop here first and not push my pawn right away, okay? So because of that, the main move, because you saw what happened, black ran out of time. The main move for black is h4 here. And what they're trying to do is say, let me get my pawn as far advanced as I can so that if the king starts to go over here to checkmate me, guess what? It's going to become a queen in time, right? h2, king here, and now there's this threat. So for example, you get the queen, we take it, and now c5 or c6 is a crucial move, and it cuts off the king. We can't go to where we need to go. This is the key feature. Yes, you can take this. Yes, you can win the rook, but then a5 happens and the king is going to escape. And because of the bishop, you can't win, right? Like this, a5. It looks nice for white, but you're not going to be able to win with the bishop, okay? So that's black's idea. We can't just make a break for it like we could before. So what do? We go to g4, keeping an eye on the pawn. Black's going to move somewhere, back to d8. And now here, if you would like to pause and try to find the winning move for white, this is probably the most difficult moment in the entire puzzle. So go ahead. How does white win from this position? All right, if you had a chance to do that, the winning move is the simple king to f4. And the reason this is winning is very, very subtle. It's actually a Zugzwang position where black is forced to move even though they don't want to. What do I mean by that? So the way we can understand this is by starting with king to f5, which is the wrong move. Okay, what's going to happen here? Well, black's going to start pushing the pawn, right? We're going to come up. We're going to come up. You're going to get the queen. We're going to take it. We've seen this before, right? They're going to push the pawn with check. We're going to go here. And you're like, this is winning, Nelson. You just showed us. This is the line we looked at, right? Black moves. We go checkmate. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's not checkmate because that bishop is sitting there on d8, takes our knight. We lose the threat that we needed. Remember the line I showed you earlier, right? That's why this bishop is a problem. That's why, going back here, after bishop d8, that's why the move to win is king to f4. Because we're keeping an eye on the pawn, so if it moves, we'll come over here and take it. Which means black doesn't want to do that, which means they have to move the bishop. And now that we've forced this, we go for the line where we bring our king up. Because the bishop is no longer controlling that important c7 square. Do you guys see how that works? So we come up, same thing's going to happen, except this time it is very different. Check, we go here, and now black no longer has this move available because of the line that I showed you guys, the knight c7, checkmate. And ultimately, the only thing black could do would be to go back into this other line that we already looked at. We take it, we get this position, and even though the pawn is going, like I showed you guys before, the bishop is in time to deliver the beautiful checkmate on b7. Wow. Fascinating stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed that one and can appreciate just how beautiful that really is. Don't forget, check out Hercules Chess. Links in the description. It's totally free and a lot of good resources over there. I'll see you guys next time. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.